Alright, so a couple weeks ago, Obsession, one of my most anticipated horror movies of the year, released in theaters. I meant to film a spoiler review last week, but in case you didn't know, I was sick. So I got sick, couldn't film a spoiler review. Life's been really hectic lately, but I had this one on the agenda. I wanted to film this spoiler review. I wanted to talk spoilers on this movie. So you're going to be getting a spoiler review today as I finish up watching all the Star Wars movies for that Star Wars ranking. I have yet to see Backrooms. I will be seeing it very, very soon. But Obsession spoiler review. And before I dive in, if you somehow haven't seen the movie yet, go watch this movie and click off this video. Go check out my spoiler-free review where I gave it an A+. I gave it the Zach D seal of approval. So it's a highly recommend for me. I since have seen it again. I watched it on Monday. I've seen the movie twice, and I cannot wait to talk spoilers. Tell me in the comment section all of your spoiler thoughts on Obsession. And before we dive into the movie itself, I kind of want to talk about the discourse that has been surrounding this movie. Not really discourse, but just some bizarre things I've seen. This is one of the rare movies where Twitter actually makes it better, if that makes sense. Where on Twitter, seeing all these accounts hype up the movie, share their theories, share what each scene, how they interpreted it, kind of made the movie even better, in my opinion. The fact that I could just see all of these people, we're all having a big conversation about an indie horror film directed by Curry Barker. And yes, it is that good. But just having the conversation about an indie horror film is pretty awesome to me. I also hate Twitter. After we get past the conversations about the film, there are also a lot of accounts that are taking the wrong themes of the movie. Let me tell you right here and right now, the themes of Obsession are not that all men are bad and want to take advantage of any woman they can. That's not the theme of the movie, and I think if you watch it, you would know. And there are people on Twitter just saying, if a man had a one-wish willow, every man would do this. Just because Bear is the villain in this story, and yes, he is absolutely 100% the villain, we'll talk about that here in this video, does not mean that every man is as bad as Bear. And I hate that discourse. I hate Twitter because it's just something filled with so much hate, and it really, like, the fact that the discourse switched from everybody loving this movie to, yeah, this movie's so real because Curry Barker knows that men are terrible. It's bad. It's unbelievably stupid, people, when they say that. Aside of that, I'm loving that Obsession is making all of this money. As of now, it has grossed over $95.8 million worldwide on a $750,000 budget. Do you know how insane that is? That's insane. Last week, a movie in the Star Wars universe that I hated went into theaters. And Obsession is still number one at the box office. In its second weekend, it had a 39% increase after it already had a fantastic first weekend. Do you understand how insane that is? Now, I'm not somebody on this channel that loves the box office or talks a lot about the box office. But when something like this happens, it's insane. And it's still number one. It's expected to be dethroned by the end of this weekend by Backrooms, which is another conversation that it already seems to be having. Like, it's already, during the previews, already grossed over what it was expecting. All I can say is this. Us horror fans, we are eating. But we are already 5 minutes into this spoiler review, and we have yet to talk any spoilers on the film. So we're just going to kind of go down and discuss what happened in the movie. The movie actually starts out with a really sweet scene with Bear, and it's just a look on, like the camera's just locked on him, and he's giving the spiel about what Nikki means to him. It's actually really sweet. He's like, you're in every song I listen to, I can't stop thinking about you, and one thing that this movie does really well right off the start is making Bear relatable. Again, he's not relatable later in the movie, but every person, man or woman, have had love interests, have had crushes. And I think every man or woman, every person has had this obsession with somebody. Not like insane obsession, but just like, I want to be with them. I can't stop thinking about them. I think every person has had that experience. So listening to him say this spiel is actually kind of sweet. And on rewatch, I was thinking that actually would work. And then you get Ian, who I didn't want to believe is a villain after my first watch, because I just found Cooper Tomlinson to be so funny. But he is definitely a villain, especially after you learn what happens later in the film, because he's like, nah, bro, that won't work. And if you listen closely, the waitress who he was giving that spiel to, just like practicing, she's like, that's really sweet, that's really sweet. Ian's like, nah. I think Ian knew that would work and cut it down. So it's already off to a really, really good start. Bear goes home, his cat's dead. Saddest part of this movie. I love animals. I love cats. My cat Steve is sitting in there on my bed. So, very, very sad part. It gets messed up with that later. A lot of people were like, oh, what's the cat have to do with anything? The cat being in here is so stupid. And I'm just thinking, well, yeah, it doesn't exactly match the tone of the movie. But also, I think his cat dying kind of puts Bear in a fragile place. He loves this woman. He thinks he can never be with her. His cat just died. And it's just going to put him at this fragile place, I think, for Bear to, kind of be a little bit not himself in the very beginning. And it shows because they go to trivia night. I woke up rock hard thinking of trivia. That's a line. That's probably the funniest line in the movie spoken by Ian. But no, it's actually not the funniest. The funniest comes later in the movie. I'll talk about that in a minute. But they go to trivia. Bear's trying to talk to Nikki. Nikki called him. Nikki thinks of him as a really good friend. She is genuinely a good person. She's writing a book. She borrows $20 from Sarah, who is another standout character. This friend group, Ian, Sarah, Bear, Nikki. And she borrows $20 from Sarah and gives it to a homeless person. She is genuinely a good person. She wants to go home. Ian wants to go to a bar. So Bear wants to go home as well. So he takes Nikki home. And this is, I think, every man has been put in this situation, or even woman, where they just want to ask out this person that they are with, but they're too scared of what the person would think. And so it's just incredibly awkward car ride, where you could tell that they both deeply care about each other. You can tell that Nikki deeply cares about Bear, but you feel like the movie makes it so relatable because it feels like you're put in the shoes of Bear in the situation. So he gets to Nikki's house and she gets out, and it's just this awkward exchange where Ian told him earlier in the movie to call her Freaky Nikki because she likes it. She doesn't like it. All to further the point that Ian is a villain because he definitely doesn't want Bear to get with Nikki. I wouldn't say Ian's a villain. Ian's not a good guy. That's what I'll say. But Bear calls Nikki Freaky Nikki, and she doesn't like it. That's when she asks the question, Bear, do you like me? And this is where the movie kind of flips on its head, because I think if Bear said yes, if he gave that spiel at the beginning of the movie, I think there would have been an opportunity, and I think a relationship would have formed between these two characters. But, and this is where Bear's flaws come in, is he chickens out. He says, I like you as friends. And that, like, just the fact that he had it so close, and he fumbled the ball, puts him at such a fragile place. He just lost his cat. He can't get the girl he likes. And so he snaps the stick. He snaps it, or the one-wish willow. Because earlier in the movie, I forgot to mention this, how he got the one-wish willow was quite funny. He was on the phone with Nikki. She dropped her diamond necklace down the drain. So he goes to get her one. Instead, he buys her the one-wish willow. But he decides to use it, and he's like, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anybody else in the whole world. Snaps the stick. And this is one of the creepier scenes of the movie. Wouldn't say creepiest, because there are, like, way worse. But as you slowly know that she doesn't know what's going on, She knows she has to stay in this car. She goes, she has a conversation with him. She says, my cat just died, when it was Bear's cat that just died. Just this really awkward situation. And you feel Bear like, what's actually going on? What's happening? She begs him to come inside. Then she begs him to go to his place. And that's when she tells him that her dad has cancer, kind of to get Bear to take her to his place. So he does. It's just a really weird and awkward and actually quite effective scene of the movie. But they get there, really awkward situation, and she starts making out with Bear. And here's where I want to be very clear, is that Bear is not the villain yet. You can say that, yeah, he's pretty bad for wanting to wish Nikki's life away, but he didn't believe the One Wish Willow worked. He still doesn't believe it works. He's just like, what's happening? What's she doing? And the thing is, he kind of pulls away. He kind of doesn't want to do this, but he starts doing it anyways. And that's when she wakes up. Like, the real Nikki pops through the body, starts freaking out. And again, this is why I think Bear's not the bad guy, is because she starts making out with him again. And he's like, no, we're not doing this. So he goes to sleep on the floor. That is really, really effective at showing that Bear doesn't believe it's happening, and also didn't take advantage of her in that situation. He's not quite the villain yet, okay? Because later in the movie, after this really weird conversation, he tells Ian that, yeah, I think she was on drugs. They have this conversation. She's just in the background smiling at him in a very creepy way, very effective, like to make you uncomfortable, where it's just like this conversation, and just in the background you could see a blur, but you can very clearly tell that she's just staring at him with a big smile on her face. Insanely creepy stuff. With the way Nikki's eyes work, the way Indy Navarrete uses her eyes, that she is very clearly trapped in here, still doesn't know what's happening, but is forced to do this. Very effective scene. But Ian takes her home that night. Bear's like, something weird's happening. I don't want any part of it. And that's when, after she gets home, she drives back to his place, knocks on the door, and is like, we can make this work. We can date. And he gets everything he wanted. And this is where a very sweet montage comes in, where it's just them doing things that couples do, but also the score, which is so effective in this movie. Kind of this lovey-dovey score, but at the same time, you could feel it slowly, like, starting to decline into, like, this messed up horror score. It's very effective, and again, this scene makes you so uncomfortable. Something that's just her staring at Bear while they're watching a movie makes you uncomfortable. And so it's a very effective scene. They're at dinner. You start to get a little bit of characterization for Bear. He wants to be a food critic. They're having this nice conversation when Ian calls him and tells Bear that Nikki's dad isn't really dying, and it was a lie. And so Bear's like, huh. And he's all confused, and he goes and asks her. And that's when she stands up and she starts going, no, I thought we were having a nice date. And here's the thing that I've been seeing a lot of people say, as on this clip on TikTok, I've seen a lot of comments being like, oh, this movie has so bad performances, it's such a bad movie. And I'm just sitting there like, what? This movie has some of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a film. And Indy Navarrete, because again, you can clearly see her eyes, she wants out, but she's stuck here. And that's when we have the first and probably only sex scene jump scare that I've ever seen. Where, like, it's just a loud noise, but it goes from that tense of a situation to them doing it. And normally I wouldn't touch on this because, like, a lot of times I close my eyes, I look away. The first time I did, I closed my eyes, I looked away because I'm a Christian. I don't want to be exposed to stuff like that. But I've heard... So the second time, I looked at her face, and it is just some of the most depressing and mentally messed up things that I've seen in a while, is that on her face, she has a tear in her eye. She's frowning. She's not showing any emotion. It's the real Nikki poking out, forced to love Bear, which is considered, sexual assault. And so she's being assaulted by this guy. And still... at this part, I still don't think Bear's the villain, because I still don't think he fully realizes. Of course, he's bad. Until he realizes of course, he took this away from her. He was a villain as soon as he snapped it, but at the same time, like, he doesn't realize what he's done, and so he doesn't do anything to fix it yet. So I still don't think he fully believes in the One-Wish Willow until after this scene. He goes to work the next day. She makes him food. Oh, shoot. I forgot the bedroom scene. How could I forget the bedroom scene? Some of the most scary things I've seen in a movie in forever. Yeah, it's very creepy. He wakes up in the middle of the night. She's sitting there in the corner with this face that's just so distorted. And it's not CGI or anything. It's her face. But the shadows, the way the shadows move, the way she looks, very creepy. Now, we don't know any lore on the One-Wish Willow. We don't know exactly what it does. But if I had to guess, it's some kind of demon that pulls its magic or something. I don't know. I wish we got a little bit of lore. But it doesn't look like Nikki. It looks like something else. So I have a feeling that in that scene, what was poking out of her was the true thing that has inhabited Nikki's body in this situation. But it's very creepy. She just starts screaming, "Why don't you love me? I don't like my dreams. I feel like you're not loving me as much as I love you, like it's not mutual." Very creepy stuff. Very creepy. And let me tell you, 3:45 in the morning, when I was texting the Nikki thing that they did for the marketing, I decided to text it. Bad idea, because I got a phone call, 3:45 in the morning. And it was this exact scene. Her screaming, "Why don't I love you?" Or why don't I love her? And she feels it's not mutual. And let me tell you, I didn't get any sleep for the rest of that night. It was freaky stuff, man. But anywho, yeah, so she starts screaming that. She starts running around. She picks up a flower pot. And again, how this film can build tension is that it's just her holding a flower pot over her head. That's all the scene is. That's all it is. And it's able to make you so creeped out, so uncomfortable. But she just sets it down, gets back in bed, cuddles up with Bear. He starts scooting around. She screams no at him. Let me tell you, at this part, when my first viewing, I had to go to the restroom. So I walked down the stairs, and sometimes I just stand there for a minute, stretch my legs, still watching the movie. But I just stood there, and right by the speaker, when she yelled no during the scene, scared the crap out of me. It was some terrifying stuff. And the film is able to utilize sound really well as well. So, like, the way Nikki screams, the way the sound comes out of the speakers is very creepy as well. So, anyways, Bear goes to work the next day. Nikki has taped his door shut. She also made him lunch. So she's doing some messed up things, and I think this is where Bear's starting to realize that it is the One-Wish Willow. And I guess here's the official point that you can call Bear the villain, is that he starts to realize that this is not Nikki Freeman. I think that bedroom sequence really showed him, actually, the whole event of the past night, the dinner and now the bedroom scene, shows him that this is not Nikki. This is something else. And again, it's very effective because he goes to work, he has a sandwich, he's having a really nice conversation with Sarah, and he sees a note on the back of the sandwich. Also, something I found really interesting is that there's two Polaroids, one of Bear that says you, and then one of her that says not me. The real Nikki trying to show him that, it's not Nikki. And again, he just doesn't care. Again, further proving the point that Bear is the villain here. But anyways, Bear realizes that his sandwich is made of his dead cat. Yummers. But yeah, crazy scene. He throws up the cat. He goes home. He pulls into the parking lot. Actually, he rides home, or he takes Ian home. And Ian tells him that there's a party going on, but Nikki cannot go to it. So that's going to create a little bit of conflict. And I think Bear realizes that, it's the One-Wish Willow, again, that's controlling Nikki, because when he gets home, he calls the number in one of the most haunting sequences in a film I've seen in my entire life, where he talks to him, voiced by Curry Barker, again, love it, I love it, Cooper Tomlinson, that's the guy that's always in the skits with him, so I just love seeing these guys, because I did always watch That's a Good Idea, which is the skit company that Curry Barker and Cooper Tomlinson were in. But anyways, he talks to the guy on the other end of the phone, the One Wish Willow people, and he's like, can I alter the wish? So he very clearly knows that Nikki is not Nikki, but he wants to alter it to make Nikki less crazy. This is a scene that if you had any doubts of him being a villain, he is the villain, 100%. And let me tell you, the first watch of this movie, I was thinking to myself, isn't Bear kind of a bad guy? Is Bear pretty bad? I didn't fully realize that he was fully on the villain until after the movie ended, and I realized the terrible things that he did. He is fully on the villain, and so I kind of had to watch it again with new eyes, knowing that he was fully the villain to notice all these things. But I think this is officially a scene that if you had any doubts before, Bear is a villain. Can I alter the wish? Curry Barker's like, no. And he said, can I cancel the wish? Only after he said, Curry Barker's character said, just because you wished for it doesn't make it any less real. And Bear's like, hey, maybe it's real. Maybe I can still be with her. So only then, once he realizes he still has a chance to get what he really wants, does he like, I'll let her go. To where Curry Barker says, nah, we don't do that. And then he says, do you want to speak to her? Where he turns the phone over to Nikki, and it's just screaming. It's just her screaming. I don't know if that means her soul is trapped. I don't know. I think it might mean her soul is trapped. Again, further proving my theory that it's just some kind of demon or a witch that inhabits the body of Nikki and takes away her soul. Her soul is gone. And that was her real soul screaming over the phone. That's my theory. And then when she pops back into Nikki's body every now and then, tries to kill herself, it's to try to free her soul. I don't know. Again, it's just a theory because we never fully learn anything. And I would love to see like another kind of project inside this universe to kind of learn what the One Wish Willow is. But still, that's just how I interpret it, is that her soul is not in Nikki's body. He goes inside where Nikki was standing at the door all day, smiling. She peed herself, pooped herself, threw up. I think throwing up, a lot of people had theories like, did she try to take the pills? Did she try to do that? I think it was, I don't know, because she was just standing there in the exact same spot. I don't think she tried to kill herself in the situation. I think it was just the fact that you stand in one spot for 8 hours with no food, no nothing. It's not exactly good for you. But anyways, Bear's like, yo, go shower. This is disgusting. She goes showers. He tells her through the shower that he's going to Ian's party, to where she shuts off the shower to, again, the way that the movie utilizes sound. Very effective, the way the sound works when she shuts off the shower. Very effective sequence. But, yeah. He tells her, she's like, I'll go with you. He says no. She starts freaking out, starts smashing things. He's like, you can come with me. And she's like, no, I want you to have a good time. But she ends up going with him instead, where you're at the party sequence. One of the best parts of this film, where they're at this party sequence. They're playing a game where they take Jenga blocks. They look at them. They got to do what it says. She picks up hers. We have no idea what it says, but she starts reading a poem, a story that she wrote that's incest about Hansel and Gretel. And I think that this is a genius scene, because earlier in the movie we found out that she had a conversation with Sarah, and Nikki views Bear as a brother. So, like, all of these sexual things that about Nikki, that she wrote this story, and she's telling this story about how Hansel, which is Bear, and Nikki, which is Gretel, are forced to be together. And a beautiful line, a perfect line, is a love that is only conjured by the branch of a willow tree. The One Wish Willow. Genius stuff. Bear pulls his and it says, kiss the person to your left, which is Sarah. And Indy Navarrete puts on this horrible frown. Best frown I've seen in a movie ever. Get her in one of the Smile movies, dang it. I want to see that. But she walks over, she scoots Sarah back, sits next to Bear. They kiss, and then she starts screaming, "None of you are gonna have the same love we have for each other, and you're all gonna die." And she's like, "I'm just kidding." And then she's like, "Actually, I'm not just kidding." And it's just, again, a very creepy, very effective sequence. Later after the party, Bear's laying in bed. He gets a text from Sarah. She's like, "Yo, meet me at the park. I got something I gotta tell you." And he's like, no, I can't right now. She says, "I'm going to go to your house if you don't," which would not be good. And so he gets up, he goes, meets her at the park, after the real Nikki wakes up in the body of the possessed Nikki. And she says, "Bear, kill me, Bear, please, just kill me." And again, if you had any doubts up to this point of how crappy a person Bear is, he says, "What's so bad about being with me?" She says, "I've never been with you, Bear." And again, he just doesn't care. He's scared. And honestly, I would be too. But still, like, it's either that he doesn't want to kill Nikki, or that he doesn't want to lose what he's always wanted. Again, he's a terrible person. He's terrible. But he goes to have this conversation with Sarah where she's trying to get into school, into a college, and she has her final note to open. And that's when she tells him that Nikki and Ian were hooking up before they got together. And so he realizes that all of what Ian's been trying to tell him to do wasn't going to work. And that's why everybody thinks it's so weird that all of a sudden they got together. Not only the fact that Nikki is acting pretty insane. I mean, at the party, she took a bottle, broke it, and started stabbing her face, screaming, "It's not me, it's not me," which Bear doesn't take her to a hospital or anything. Love you, Bear, you're awesome. But anyways, they have this conversation, and then Sarah's like, "Yo, you need someone more chill," proving that Sarah liked him. Bear could have had anything he ever wanted with Sarah, who, by the way, is just as attractive as Nikki, and I'm not saying it's all about looks or whatever, but still, she's just as attractive and has just the same personality, and it shows in the beginning of the film when they were having their interactions. And of course, Nikki barrels through the window. One of the jump scares that if you've seen any horror movie ever, you knew that she was going to bounce through the window. You just didn't know when it was going to happen. And the thing is, I saw her in the window. I was sitting there in the theater seat and I saw her in the window. And when she smashed through, it still got me to jump. But she takes a brick, bang, 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 smashes the entire face of Sarah wide open. She's dead. She's a dead person. She's gone. But, Sarah dies, where Nikki tells Bear, "Yo, Bear, this is all your fault, butter boy. This is all your fault." Again, a very satisfying scene because Nikki, just being honest, it's all Bear's fault. He got Sarah killed. He's possessed over Nikki's body. They get rid of the body of Sarah, where Bear gets this good idea that they need to use the One Wish Willow, someone else to make a wish. He tries to make the own wish. Again, further proving the point that Bear's a terrible person, saying, "I wish Nikki liked me as a friend." Because he still doesn't want to lose Nikki. He still doesn't want to, because he's a terrible person. He doesn't care about her. All he cares about is what he wants. But it doesn't snap because he already used his wish. He goes to Ian. He's like, "Ian, I need you to make the wish that me and Nikki, or that I never made a wish." Finally, if he makes that wish, she's free, but it also gets him out of trouble. Again, he's not thinking of Nikki, he's thinking of himself. Again, furthering the point that Bear is a terrible human being. But anyways, Ian doesn't believe it. Ian's like, "Dude, you're stupid. I wish for $1 billion. Snaps it, gets $1 billion. This is a sequence in the theater on my first watch that I knew I was watching something special, where it's just Bear on his knees looking up at Ian with all this money falling down, and like, "What have you done?" And I was like, with the score going, this beautiful imagery, this is a peak movie. But he goes back home. He tries to get Nikki to snap the One Wish Willow to try to reverse it, and she doesn't. She goes all crazy. In this sequence, I'm not going to lie, I didn't understand what she was saying half the time, because I was just so scared. It was going so crazy. She does this weird backwards walk thing that is very effective. I don't know if it was CGI or anything, but again, Nikki is very, very good, or Indy Navarrete is very, very good in this movie, and just so effectively creepy. This is the best line in the movie. Ian goes, knocks on the door, he's like, "Yo, Bear, open up, dude, I got $1 billion. I love Ian. Like, despite all his flaws in the movie, he's still so funny to me, and just a great way to kind of break the tension until he opens the door and Nikki just pops him down. He's dead. So he not only ruined the life of Nikki, but ruined it of Sarah, ruined it of Bear. But they're doing something crazy. Bear knows that the only way to break this wish is to kill himself. So he goes to the bathroom with the gun that Nikki had, was going to kill himself with the gun, but he cowered it out again. He decides to go for the less painful way, or actually I think a gunshot wouldn't be that painful, but anyways, he takes the pills and he goes overdoses. He swallows them. He sits there. And that one scene that we've seen, the one image of him sitting there all bloodied up, that's what the scene is. You can never guess the context of it, but he's sitting there waiting to die, and he cowers out. He goes to gag himself to throw up the pills. And that's when Nikki saves herself. She snaps the one-wish willow that he left on the table, and the wish, fairly obvious, that she wants him to love her as much as she loves him. And so he walks out. They're in love. Is it going to be a happy ending? Kind of, because Bear dies. He didn't gag the pills in time. He dies of an overdose. And that's when Nikki wakes up. That's when Nikki wakes up and realizes all that has just happened. Everything that has just happened. And she sees all the blood. She sees Bear dead. She sees Ian dead. She sees the gun in her hand. She knows that all of this, she obviously saw all of it happening, but it ruined her life. And you might say, oh, it's a happy ending. Nikki's free, the bad guy's dead. No, because the cops are going to get there, and they're going to see her with all these dead bodies. There's no way for her to get out of it. She already used her wish. She can't reverse it. That's what's so effective about this movie. And the movie just ends with the title screen, us listening to her sob. Depressing movie. Curry Barker came out yesterday and said that the fate of Nikki will be revealed in his next movie, How to Catch a Ghost, I think is what it's called. But, yeah. So hopefully it says Nikki Freeman has been found innocent. It won't. It's just such a depressing movie. So, such a good movie with all these individual themes. Bear is 100% the villain. Ian's not a good guy, but he's quite funny. But I love this movie. It was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm dying to buy it on 4K so I can check it out again. On rewatch, I'd still give it an A+, so Zach D. Seal approval. It's not even close. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this spoiler review of Obsession. Next up, the next video most likely will either be the Backrooms review or a Star Wars ranking finally. With that said, subscribe.